Well, hello. That's me again, and it is the August 3rd, and obviously events of the last few days require me to go online, so to speak, and start talking. But if you expect from me now giving predictions or forecasts in terms of whatever happened with Chinese-American relations and visit of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan, you will not get anything from me in this respect, because first, I hate forecasts anyway, and when I make them, I make sure that I am absolutely positive, at least 99%. I am not a sinologist. I don't know Chinese language. I communicated with Chinese people, obviously, but I don't know Chinese language, I don't know Chinese culture, so don't expect from me to wax here Chinese and saying that, oh, I know what I'm talking about. No. But what I know, and I am on the record, and for many years actually, very many years, is I definitely have some knack for, if you wish, assessing and forecasting the development of the military-industrial potential of many countries, and especially such countries as Russia, China, and United States. And let me get you something which is absolutely crucial in this particular case. It's the preface by incomparable Corelli Barnett. He is the chair, actually, of Shakespearean Studies, I believe, in Oxford, and he is one of those historians of the times when Great Britain produced truly amazing academicians and people of the incredible foresight and knowledge and culture. And here is his preface to his famous book, The Collapse of British Power. Look what he writes. It's absolutely crucial, absolutely relevant, pertinent to what we are going to discuss today. That's how he defines the national power. For the power of nation state by no means consists only in its armed forces, but also in its economic and technological resources, in the dexterity, foresight, and resolution with which its foreign policy is conducted, in the efficiency of its social and political organization. It consists most of all in the nation itself, the people, their skills, energy, ambition, discipline, initiative, their beliefs, myths, and illusions, and it consists further in the way all these factors are related to one another. Moreover, national power has to be considered not only in itself in its absolute extent by relative to the state's foreign or imperial obligations. It has to be considered relative to the power of other states. This definition has been given by Barnett in 1971, I believe. You can look up his amazing series about the collapse of British power, and of course the final book. I believe it's 71, maybe 73. But it never lost its relevance, it never lost its precision. And fact is, if you look up Sergei Lavrov, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, talking to the people, officers of the Russian Academy of General Staff a few years back, you will see yourself that he basically almost verbatim, gives the same definition of the national power. Now, and here we have to take things in perspective, so to speak, regarding what happened 2 days ago with Pelosi landing in Taiwan, and I can add here only this thing. I completely agree with Ramzan Kadyrov, who yesterday in his Telegram channel stated, hey, you know what? Why so much noise? Why so many threats and, fear-mongering on China's side? They should have allowed this, old grandma to simply land there without much ado and then decide things, whatever, calmly, quietly, and And fact is, Well, many people talk about it. You have to remember that Newt Gingrich and congressional delegation landed in Taiwan in '90s. There were visits of all other kind of congressional or parliamentary organizations visiting Taiwan, and evidently there was not much, consternation, despite the fact that the world generally accepts Chinese position that Taiwan is a part of China. It's one China policy. Why now? Why so much, explosion of emotions? Even considering the fact that obviously Western propaganda helped, so to speak, to spin that, but there's no doubt that a lot of consternation and threats were issued by China itself. And let's go back few years ago. Well, not few. Let's go 14 years ago. And here's what I want to show you. Here's Vladimir Putin at 2007. This is his famous Munich speech. As you can see yourself, pardon me. So back to Vladimir Putin's speech there. As you can see yourself, in 2007, you see there basically faces of the U.S. senators who were present on this Munich security conference, so to speak, and the only face of any concern or any worry and interest is the face of Robert Gates. At that time, I believe he was the CIA director. You can see late war criminal John McCain behaving himself like a jackass that he was. You can see Mr. Lieberman just being stoned, and Lindsey Graham obviously looking somewhere. And you have to understand, at that time, when Vladimir Putin was saying that basically it's over, guys, I mean, you wanted your world order, it's not going to happen, obviously they were laughing and, basically humiliating Russia. But immediately, almost in historical terms, in 2008, one of the lapdogs, which is Georgia, not the state of the United States, but the country of Georgia, spurned by none other than John McCain and the hawks and neocons from Washington, decided to basically probe Russian resolve. Well, you know what happened. Georgia as a country, as we knew it, and as the military force, was basically destroyed within 5 days. Actually, it's more like 4, but let's say 5 days. And Georgia ceased to exist as we knew it. And it's Mr. Saakashvili now, since then, have been basically running around offering his services, which are absolutely services of a madman. But it took Russia very little, actually, and not much military effort to wipe the floor with the Georgian army, which everybody was saying that, oh my God, it is so amazing, it's NATO equipped and trained. It was, actually, including the, even Israel was part of it. Well, didn't last long. So, and that's when Russia first time showed her teeth. And as you follow any kind of good old cowboy and western movies, but this is actually a very ancient tradition and method. It's very simple. It goes like that. If you're not gonna if you're gonna show your weapon to your enemy, you better make sure that you're gonna use it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself. And after Putin's 2007 speech and 2008 war in Georgia, the world hasn't been the same ever since. And then, of course, 2014 follows with Russia returning Crimea. Then Syria follows with Russia defeating ISIS. Many other things are happening now. And, of course, we all know the special military operation starts in Ukraine. If you show your weapon, use it. If not, don't. And that's what China made actually a huge mistake by basically showing the weapon and then not using it. Especially considering the fact that it could have been indeed actually laughed at by the fact that you have what amounts to walking mummy, who is this 80 years or whatever, I don't know, maybe she's 105, I don't know, for all we care, Nancy Pelosi landing in Taiwan, and that should have been actually framed as there you go, it's her initiative and that would be it. But here's the problem. because of this outpour of outrage and threats from China, it completely gained another meaning, and it was completely different level of the competition between United States and China blinked, and that's impossible to spin one way or another. And United States just, prove itself as absolutely atrocious and outrageous country which doesn't care, about what other people think. But we knew this all along, and you can talk to the United States, which is non-agreement capable. You can talk only with from the position of power. And that's what Russia was doing since, again, 2007. And now, I'm not going to go there, and actually I will, but not today. And let me go back to 5 years ago. I will go back to 5 years ago to my good old piece, one of many I wrote about China. And I was writing about China since the get-go. And the issue was that, China is definitely economic giant, but it takes more, and you already saw in Kareli Barnes' definition, it takes much more than just the ability to produce some gizmos and gadgets, and even a huge amount of steel or what have you. But here's what I wrote 5 years ago in 2017. So, once one makes even a brief review of China's capabilities, the conclusion is inevitable. While not a second-rate military by any means, and improving, China is still not in the same league technologically as Russia or US, despite both Russia and US large issues with force structure. But above all, China's military thought and organization have not been tested in real combat, even if against inferior opponent. US has an edge over China here, and a serious one, while Russia's military history and military school simply dwarfs that of China. This factor alone may account for at least a half of military might measure. Chinese learn, there is no doubt about it. But are they ready to stare Donald Trump and his brass down? I doubt it at this point, but we will see soon enough. This was obviously related to the issue of the North Korea, and it eventually resolved itself. But here's what I wrote 5 years ago. If the United States makes China look as if she backs off in the case of North Korea, this will be viewed as a humiliation in the nation which saw a lot of it in her 19th and 20th century's history. This also may move China closer militarily to Russia and allow her to become potentially a much larger recipient of Russian military technology. That's what written 5 years ago in 2017. And of course, in this same 2017, we had this issue which is very much maligned by me as a tabloid because the quality of it deteriorated dramatically. But still, in 2017, the National Interest wrote an article which was called The China-Russian Alliance by Lyle Goldstein. And this article produced some very notable things. So let's take a look at it. This was quoted from the Chinese Foreign Policy magazine by one of the Chinese strategists, very prominent Chinese strategist, Mr. Zhang. And look what he wrote already then in 2017. On the other hand, the author notes that Russia hardly requires the assistance of Chinese military forces. Moreover, the point is made repeatedly in this article that China's conversion of economic power into military is a relatively slow process, resulting in a lag, even as its economic ascendance is more obvious. While not stated explicitly, the author seems to imply that China's continuing military weakness is an obstacle to a China-Russia alliance, perhaps because China is not seen as sufficiently capable partner. However, the author nonetheless is surprisingly explicit in stating that China would be a more serious partner in the hypothetical alliance, largely due to its economic heft. Well, what can I say in this particular case? Military alliances are called military alliances for simple that they are military. And when I was, and continue, even today, yesterday, I yesterday posted about this, that while United States definitely is not militarily what it always tries to present itself, yeah, it's absolutely not it is. It's much weaker in technological and combined, especially combined arms warfare aspect of it. There is no doubt, and I speak about this constantly, I write about this constantly. There is no doubt that the United States naval force is still significant and it's most modern in terms of, especially when compared to the Chinese one. And people say, while China is capable to defeat United States within the first island chain. Yes, China has the means of delivery of, they say, hypersonic, well, they're ballistic, they're not zircons, but still, evidently they develop some kind of targeting, reliable targeting, and within the close proximity to China, especially around Taiwan, China theoretically can sink a lot of United States surface component. That goes without saying. Not to mention the fact that there are many air bases which are close to the shores, and those are Air Force bases of Chinese Air Force. And so in this case, it really doesn't mean that much how many aircraft carriers the United States can move around Taiwan, for example, because with the distance of 250 kilometers from China's shore to Taiwan, China has enough numerically aircraft combat assets which it can challenge just basically anything the United States can move towards Taiwan in case of the hypothetical scenario of fighting China there. Yes, she can do that, but, and here comes this issue which I am on record constantly and I continue to repeat it and will continue to repeat it. Truth is, China lags dramatically behind Russia and the United States in submarine technologies. Chinese know about it. And within the South China Sea, within and near Taiwan, any deployment of the Chinese surface fleet will be met with the much superior America's, numerically and qualitatively, American submarine force. And any kind of loss, significant loss, of the Chinese surface asset will have a very adverse effect on Chinese military planning or execution of the operation if they decide to really go for Taiwan and try to whatever they will try now, because obviously now China has to respond somehow. And this is strategic factor. It's not just operational or tactical. That's the issue we're going to be discussing, and I already partially discussed in operations. Even with the relatively obsolete harpoons and tomahawks, United States, you know what, this excellent submarine force, world class, top 2 in the world, you know, maybe the best in the world, you know, at this stage, for all U.S. Navy issues, and especially with surface force, which is a completely disaster, what is happening there. But in terms of submarine force, United States can basically deploy right now around 20 nuclear submarines of late Los Angeles and Virginia class and Seawolves, and that will be a huge issue for any operation around Taiwan for Chinese. And Chinese know that. And that is why, frankly, the way it was handled by the Chinese foreign policy establishment and by the government, creating this huge noise and then not acting on it, now just basically doing what usually people do in, you know, and that should have been done in advance before Pelosi was planning to land in Taiwan, the whole massive military exercises. Will China go for jugular today against Taiwan? I don't know. Hey, your guess is good as mine. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend here. But again, as I already stated, the mere listing of some military assets in the area, like number of ships, number of aircraft, number of the tanks, number of the landing craft, and things like that. China obviously is completely dominant in this respect over Taiwan, is a totally different thing from actually operational planning, which requires not just these numbers, it requires understanding of the combat efficiency of those numbers. And combat efficiency in terms of the submarine warfare in the area even considering the fact of the closeness of the Chinese Air Force and probably Chinese anti-submarine warfare patrol aviation. Here we have the issue, China rather. And in this case, it only brings us to the issue if China will become closer to Russia militarily. It is happening already. And as I already stated recently, and actually ad nauseam, that even Russia helping building, which is pretty much given the technology, of early warning systems against the missile attack to China. It's not just charity issue here. Russia tries to defend itself too by giving China the ability to observe and detect and track and probably counter any kind of the missile attack against Chinese territory, be that through good old tomahawks, let alone, God forbid, we're talking about the ballistic missiles from the United States. And that is the issue here. And this should have been done in a very different way by China, even considering the fact of the coming what they call the historic Congress of the Communist Party of China, in which Comrade Xi should have gotten his third term, basically making him, well, almost life tenure as being the head of the Chinese state. And evidently somebody in the United States decided to spoil the party, literally. And guess what? They did. And China is now in the weak position because she needs to respond in some way, which also doesn't start the World War III, but also is stern enough, which also puts the United States in its place. But you do not want to compete with the United States, being very aware that you're not aware, actually. They really think in China, I believe, that you can resolve everything by negotiations. No, you can't. So that is why, for example, Russia, as you can see yourself, Russia is completely isolated. She did it to herself from United States economy, United States financial system, and Russia doesn't hold any treasuries. She sold them out. China is not in this position. Plus, China still, to a large extent, is dependent on for its exports to the United States. It's obviously diminishing in terms of size, but still it's very large. Some people say it's 12%, others say that it's 15%, but it's still very significant. So, and that's what we have with China today. And that's the issue between Chinese and Russian relations, and that's I was calling it a BS starting from my real serious public appearance in 2014 when I became the public figure, and I was saying that the favorite shtick of the basically U.S. media tabloids, and most U.S. media are tabloids, from Wall Street Journal to Time to New York Times to let alone and propaganda outlets, when they were talking about that, oh yeah, in alliance between Russia and China, China is going to be dominant power. No, China is not going to be the dominant power, because there is this specific issue which defines the power of the nation, which has a lot to do with the complex of things and the factors which I just quoted for you from Corelli Barnett and his brilliant trilogy in the last book of the series, The Collapse of British Power. Anybody who wants to understand geopolitics, please read it. It's a brilliant history. The times when United Kingdom, England, was still able to produce people of honor, people of the integrity, and great academicians. That's it. Read it. Beautifully written. So, and that's what we have on our hands today. And will Russia help China? Oh, absolutely. While Russians themselves are kind of, taken aback with China's approach to this whole situation, they understand that, and you can find it today in Russia's media, that we still have to help China, and we have to support them, and Russia will support China, Russia will help China, and that obviously makes China much closer to Russia militarily, and we'll see where it all gets us. What kind of technology transfers, and again, what kind of the integration will happen down the road. But at this stage, we have to just wait and see what's going to happen. Now, in other news, and I strongly suggest you get to two wonderful pieces of media, so to speak. One is great interview of Andrei Raevsky, you know him as the Saker, with Michael Hudson, one of the most brilliant economic minds of our time. And while I do not share some military aspects of Michael Hudson's views, it's certainly incredible interview, which also explains basically what is happening with the United States. But second one, obviously, look up Alex and Alexander from Duran speaking about today about the situation in the fronts of the special military operation and how bad it is for the VSU, and about obviously this counteroffensive, which never came and probably never will. And watch and listen to this. It's fairly short. It's about 20 minutes. And obviously to demonstrate to you how bad it is, and this is just by primarily LDNR militias fighting. Russian troops are very limited, participation there in terms of the ground forces. Primarily, it's a high-end artillery, ISR, aviation, all kinds of support like this. But the primarily fighting is done by the Lugansk and Donetsk militias, and even the very famous Ukrainian resource, which is, Russophobic, it's basically pretty much Nazi, still has to admit today, well, actually yesterday, that the situation around Pisky is a meat grinder. It's in Ukrainian language. You're certainly more than welcome to partake it and go and read, if you can, Ukrainian. But I would suggest you go to Munich, Alabama, and Bernard did the machine translation, then kind of, put it in the appropriate framework, which is readable in English. It's the translation of this article from Censor, and when you begin to hear and read from this censor, which was one of the most, biggest cheerleader of VSU being at the gates of Moscow very soon, and they talk about not just meat grinder, it's basically a complete physical obliteration, annihilation of the forces of Ukrainian armed forces. Read, it's dramatic. It shows you what is the level of BS and crap Western media continue to pour over their public and readers, still pretending that somehow armed forces of Ukraine can sustain or even defeat Russians. Just read it. I will leave the link below this video. And now, in conclusion, so obviously that when we talk about the power of the nation, the Forbes, which is of course also tabloid, and anything Forbes writes usually about military, especially Russian military, is complete baloney. It's made up crap, and as most of, and again, American journalists, 99% of them, they have no honor, professional integrity. They just lie, for a living, and for whatever reasons. But here it is. So suddenly Forbes is on the record like, oh my God, Russians came up, with this new weapon, which is Kalina, which is of course capable of blinding and basically killing all American satellites. And this is the article by Charles Beams, a former colonel in the Space Command, and he is in some now private space enterprise, and he writes about this. Oh my gosh, our superiority in space is threatened. First, it has to be understood that Russians were challenging American superiority in space from 1957. And so, hey, hello, good morning. Finally, somebody woke up and recognized that Russians are challenging US superiority in space. I will repeat it again. There are only two nations, United States and Russia, which have the full, absolutely completed complex of space-based ISR, which is intelligence, surveillance, and recon. But Russia, of course, has all capability to turn this, to basically erase this ISR or space assets by the United States, and the laser weapons, not just any kind of anti-satellite missiles, have been in Russian arsenal for a long time. And if you read my first book, which is written in 2017, published in 2018, you know, they're losing military supremacy, I, you know, dedicated a number of pages describing basically what is happening in terms of the space race and anti-satellite technology. And Russia was already then, well, beginning to lead the United States there. So, and that is why, that is my whole point all the time, that in real war with Russia, that is why the United States is not going to, attempt it unless they want to commit suicide. In real war with Russia, even if to imagine the complete conventional framework, this is what many American, even officers, American military professionals still cannot come to terms with. It's ISR, the space-based assets of the United States will be wiped out from the orbit, and the United States will be blind. And that's what many people don't understand. It's one thing to give the real-time situation and even targeting to Ukrainian armed forces because the United States fights Russia through proxy. Totally another when you have the full-blown, engagement conventionally. I'm not talking about nuclear. I don't even want to go there. But that's what it is. And this also adds to basically what I was talking about China for many years, that I can conclude today with. If you show the weapon and not gonna use it, don't show it. Keep it to yourself. But once you pull the gun out of your holster, so to speak, you better make sure that you kill son of a bitch or damage the son of a bitch in such a way that it cannot hurt you anymore. And we will have to live, especially, which I understand frustration and real disappointment by many people of the anti-globalist, nature, but I am on the record, and I can repeat it again, read my lips. In Russian-Chinese alliance, the war-fighting things are done by Russia. She is leading China in this, so to speak, duet, if you wish, because Russians know what they do doing militarily. And China will just have to learn, and will have to learn at some point of time to challenge the United States in such a way that the United States can do only proxy through China, towards China. And that's my main idea today. And as always, I want to say profound thank you to my wonderful patrons. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon. And obviously, subscribe to my channel. And that is my, so to speak, mixed bag of thoughts. And that's it for today, guys. Have a nice rest of the week for yourself. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.